Yeah, so friend, open palms. Love is, or
palms.
boyfriend is closed palms, yeah, because sometimes love is so passionate.
You want to hold on to them.
You want to punch them. You want to hold them, but also punch them.
Okay, we said you were on the other side of it, punching. Me, I was like, hold on.
Hello, yes people. Welcome to another episode of the Yes Girls, where we, Claire
and Akumu,
say yes to doing, being, or learning something new and documenting our journeys.
Claire, how inclusive do you think our podcast is?
Well, Akumu, that's a big question. Honestly, in terms of diversity, I think we're doing pretty well.
But what about accessibility?
We get a big thumbs down, in my opinion. I mean, let's face it, podcast as a medium is by its very nature mostly inaccessible to anyone with like hearing issues or limited hearing.
Bingo. And I think it's about time we did something about that.
I mean, our socials are inclusive because there are captions, but to listen to our podcast, you would need like specialist transcription software.
So how about if in this episode we do something about that and say yes to learning sign language? Yeah, we did that. We did the signs for that.
Sorry, I was signing yes, but I should probably say it too for those who are listening. Yes. Akumu, can you believe we're already on season 6? We're even partway through season 6. And we've already had so much amazing feedback from listeners and subscribers, and the reviews and all the insights, they mean the world to us.
If you've not yet rated, reviewed us, or even commented in Spotify, we'll give you a minute now to pause, go to your podcast player and wherever you're listening to us, and do that right now.
Yeah, and you can find us on all major podcast platforms, but we do have a preference for AfriPods, so check them out. They have a wealth of African podcast content, and we just love them.
And give us a rating. 5 stars would be ideal. And let us know why you listen to the show or to this particular episode. It really does help others discover the show, and then they can forever be grateful to you for bringing them a little more yes into their lives.
Anyway, now it's time to get on with this episode and hear about our expert, or learn about our expert. Now I'm being more conscious of my wording.
Nice.
Today we are broaching a big subject.
Big. You're doing the signs of big, I can see.
Yes, it's an important topic because for many it can seem like a black box. Despite 70 million people across the world using sign language, that sounds like a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But that's less than 1% of the world's population. And this doesn't even include the entire population of deaf and hearing impaired people, as many do not use sign language. It's not universal. Mm-hmm. There are about 300 signed languages in the world, with the most widely used being ASL, or American Sign Language. Mm-hmm. So Kenyan Sign Language is actually derived from American Sign Language, or it has a lot in common. Mm-hmm. So it has more in common with ASL than BSL, which is British Sign Language, despite spoken Kenyan language, English that we use here, being closer to British Standard English.
Yeah, and I wonder why American, because I think colonialism would push the British side.
Yeah, but when it comes to sign language, American Sign Language is more dominant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Kenyan Sign Language is used by over half of Kenya's 600,000 strong deaf population. So as we said earlier, it's by no means every deaf person that uses sign language. The same language is also used in Somalia, and you can find regional variations between Kenya's major cities and Somalia, much like you'll find in any language because of cultural and lifestyle differences, kind of like different accents.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. So for this challenge, we partnered with Pallet Cafe. We do the tea, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you when the T is at the end of the word, you're not sure. So we partnered with Pallet Cafe, and here's how they present themselves. So Pallet Cafe Nairobi is a garden cafe in Lavington, Nairobi, but they have another one.
Mm-hmm. There's one in Diani as well.
And the cafe was born out of the vision to provide great food and amazing service while promoting and training the employment of the disabled in the food service community. So they say you come, learn a few hand signs, relax, enjoy some delicious food, and have fun with us. So today that vision continues to evolve with the expansion of the garden cafe, the addition of a beautiful indoor and outdoor co-working space. Yeah, you can go do remote work there. And an outdoor yoga center, social center with an authentic food food-fired pizza.
Wood-fired.
Food-fired. Wow. Wood-fired. I can't read. Wood-fired pizza oven. And there's an art studio. I'm deaf. That's what it's called.
Hashtag I'm deaf, yeah, is like their hashtag. So our challenge happened on a Sunday morning. As you know, for season 6, we're being very strict and seeing what we can achieve in a single day. So we had just this one Sunday to dive head or hands first into Kenyan Sign Language. However, on that one day, one of us struggled somewhat. Akumu, do you want to explain?
Claire, I thought you were going to glean over this and let me hang my head in private shame.
Nope.
So yes, this particular Sunday morning, I went a bit too far in personifying this challenge. I couldn't hear, or maybe I didn't want to hear my alarm. So I actually missed the entire challenge, people. Even Claire's phone calls, I think there were like 2.
Two every minute.
I think you tried both of my phones. I still didn't hear. So apparently my dreams are too sweet. And so I will have to let Claire carry this challenge and this episode. And I will just cheer her on.
Yeah. So I dove into this challenge hands first, also face first, as sign language is as much about hands as it is about expressions.
So Claire, tell us who the experts were and how the experience went.
So first up, I had a sit down with Susan, the manager of Pallet Cafe, who herself learned sign language from scratch just a few years ago. She said it only took her about a month to be able to learn the basics, to be able to communicate with the team, to get the job done, right? So they could all work together. But she's still learning every day. So we heard a bit about how Pallet Cafe works and job prospects for the hearing impaired population in Kenya. Here's a short clip.
Initially, the first batch was brought by a sign language interpreter. She's actually the one who even helped us out to start. And then after that, they bring each other. Yeah. Your friends, your family, because some of them it runs in the family. Then they're very close-knit community. So they bring their friends. I got a job somewhere, come on. And so they keep coming.
And referrals often make a stronger case as well,
Mm-hmm.
because there's some accountability there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the staff actually knew each other before, or
Yes.
some of them knew each other.
Either they went to school together or they went to the technical training together. Yeah.
And what are the employment prospects like in general in Kenya if you have a hearing impairment or physical impairment? How do you
Very
think?
difficult. It's very difficult. By the time they come to Pallet Cafe, they have moved around.
And so
Unemployment is a huge problem in Kenya. But for them, it's even worse
yeah.
because no one understands them. No one knows their language, so it becomes very difficult.
What are the types of jobs that they've tried? Do you know, like, a lot of them have tried certain jobs and it's not worked?
Like one of the members of staff has been in the Juakali artisan, welding and all. Another one has been, one of the girls was just washing clothes in the estates for people. And then, of course, they would end up not paying some of them because they knew where would she go, no one would hear her. So, yeah, they've been doing different things here and there.
Yeah.
So you see how important it is for us as responsible citizens to learn at least some of the basics?
Yeah.
Imagine not being able to communicate with 99% of the people you meet. We need to do something about that.
Amen.
Right, so after my interesting chat with Susan, I sat down with Edwin. Edwin. So you can finger spell it, or he also has a single sign name, which is like a C that you circle under your chin. So it makes it easier to address people if you have a single sign name, which is almost like a nickname. So you can, so finger spell, you'd have to do EDWIN, or you just do a single sign.
Okay.
So Edwin was my teacher. He was incredibly patient. He took time out from serving the breakfast crowds on this cold, rainy
Just to
Sunday
clarify,
morning.
he's hearing impaired?
He is deaf,
Okay.
yeah. So on this rainy Sunday morning, he taught me dozens of signs and also spoke to me a bit about his journey with Pallet Cafe and in the professional world. Edwin is a well-groomed young man, married, with a little girl. His wife is also deaf, and so she was born deaf, unlike Edwin, who lost his hearing and speech when he was 7 years old, he explained to me, from a malaria infection. So his life just changed from one day to the next. He was lucky that his teacher and his parents were incredibly supportive, learned sign language and taught him, and he was able to continue with his mainstream education.
Okay. So what signs did Edwin teach you, and how intuitive were they?
So the amazing thing about sign language, from what I've seen, is it's very visual and very intuitive. So unlike words, which, especially if it's a foreign language, can seem nonsensical, right? Like, where did that come from? How did that
Especially
evolve?
English.
Yes, English is a not easy language to learn. But signs are truly linked to the meaning of the word. So the sign for baby is just holding an invisible baby. And the sign for tea is stirring an invisible cup of tea.
Nice.
Right? Friend is a hug. Wife or husband or married is two interlinked pinky fingers.
Why pinky?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, but I guess it's easier than the others.
Than the middle one.
So in this way, it's easy to see how it is quite quick to grasp the basics of this language. There are also shortcuts, as mentioned, like for names, or even for the term sign language itself, which is usually two signs, but it can just be shortened to one for brevity. Like, everyone will understand you. Like, it's sign language, but you can just do signs and people will understand. And then, having learned a few signs in French language back in the day, this was a few years ago, as I have a
context?
number. Well, in France, I used to live in France, and I have a number of deaf friends there, and especially one, and then the whole friendship circle, like her girlfriend, her sister, her friends, all learned some sign language. So because of that, I could see both the similarities and the differences between the two, the Kenyan and the French sign languages. So like the signs for boy and girl are quite similar, but in Kenyan Sign Language, there are very illustrative signs for different towns and tribes, for example. So like the signs for Kericho, where Edwin's wife is from, there's a tea growing area. This is the sign for it. It's an action like you're throwing freshly plucked tea in tea leaves into the basket on your back.
Yeah.
Exactly. How much more like evocative can you get? Like there's the sign for Nyeri is this like kind of like you're sniffing tobacco, which is a character. I think it's often associated with one of Kenya's former presidents who is from that town, right? Or like because of his nose.
It could be one or both.
Yeah. So anyway, it's linked to like a very cultural phenomenon, right? Like that former president. And it was, even now it was fascinating. Even now, 3 weeks later, I probably remember at least half the signs that he taught me. Maybe not perfectly, right? It was just a one session thing. But I still remember them off the top of my head. Whereas when we learned Greek for how long?
Can
2
you remember
weeks?
anything?
I think even 3 weeks after the challenge, I only remembered about 10 words.
I couldn't remember even after the challenge.
Now I remember maybe 2.
Wow, you have 2. I have 0. But it's because it's intuitive, right?
Yeah, it's more intuitive, and it's in a way it's less complicated because for certain things you can just do one sign and it can kind of encapsulate almost a whole phrase, or one sign can mean several things. But yeah, to learn it can be it's just a lot more intuitive, I would say. Especially, I don't know how it would be to learn it as a deaf person. That I have to say, I can only speak to how it was to learn it as someone who already speaks and hears English.
Yeah. So why don't more people learn it, you think?
Well, as Susan said, so Susan, the manager of Pallet Cafe, schools, at least in Kenya, don't teach any sign language by default. And most deaf children aren't catered for in mainstream schools or classes.
Does that ever happen anywhere in the world? I don't think so, yeah.
Rarely, but in some countries you could have a personal teacher's aide so that you could attend mainstream school, and maybe at least the kids in your class might learn some sign language. So the average Kenyan child doesn't learn a single sign ever, even adult. The dream would be if the government were to insist that every child in school learn at least the basics and be able to communicate in this unique but incredibly useful language, right? At Pallet Cafe, each waiter is deaf. So they even have hoodies written #IamDeaf on the back. Check out the images on our Instagram. We'll definitely be uploading them. And they each carry around a notebook, not for noting down orders, which they can easily memorize, but to be able to communicate with customers, for example, if you have a special request, like I want my eggs Benedict with extra sauce or no onions on my hamburger, you can write it down or they can write it down for you. Because Pallet is first and foremost a business, right?
Yeah.
Customers want to come, relax, eat, chat with friends. And that happens no matter the way that the customer communicates with stuff.
Exactly.
Right? Now, I did confirm that, of course, they do get some rude and impatient stuff.
Because staff, but customers.
Customers.
But I'm getting because it's because you can miss knowing that they're deaf. You will probably not read their hoodies. And then, I haven't even seen them. I think the second time I went, that's when I realized, because even when you have the menu, you point.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on you realize, wait, we didn't exchange any words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easy to miss.
Yeah. You could miss it, in which case, great for you. You still had a good experience. You had good food. You had good service. You might not even realize that the person who was serving you is deaf. I think you'd be missing out on one of the extra bonuses of going there. And there's even a sign, there's a big poster on the wall with the alphabet in sign language, so that at least you can sign something or learn a couple of letters whilst you're there. But yeah, they do get some rude and impatient customers sometimes. And in those cases, Edward explained that he just does his best to satisfy them, serve them, and not inconvenience them, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, people who come to dine there appreciate that it is a slightly out of the ordinary experience and business.
Yeah.
And they might end up learning the sign for thank you or how to sign their name in the KSL sign language alphabet.
KSL, Kenyan Sign Language.
Kenyan Sign Language.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So that sounds like a short solo session. Did you really get, what did you get out of it? How many signs did you learn?
I really did get a lot out of it. I'm just sorry you missed it.
I know.
But
I know.
For the first half, I don't think we wrote anything down. Right. So it was, Edwin can lip read a bit. I tried to use the very basic signs, even if they're not actual signs, you kind of make up some signs. And that's how sign language often comes about. Most people who don't even speak a sign language will have a signed way of communicating. I'm sorry you missed it.
I'll go to Pallet in my own time and try the signs on the wall, which I've never looked at. I think I have a problem with looking at things that are written on walls. I've never seen them.
So definitely go back. Pallet should be resuming classes at some point in the future. And if you want to learn some basics, you can just pop along there for brunch or late lunch and even just talk to the serving staff. And they're also friendly and eager to teach you some signs, or just ask them and you'll probably come away with a full belly and maybe a small appreciation for the rich form of communication that is sign language, specifically Kenyan Sign Language.
Nice. So, Claire, what do you take away from this challenge?
Well, the obvious is a new way of communicating, at least with some of the basics. Actually, last week, so I did the challenge 3 weeks ago. Last week, I hosted a run for a running club, and 2 of the runners who came for the run were deaf, are deaf, and they spoke Kenyan Sign Language.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You practiced.
I did. It felt so great to be able to I offered them tea and I signed tea. I only used 2 signs, right? But I was able to offer them tea or water.
Water? How do you do water?
I can't remember water. I think that they actually had to teach me water because the tea was, I was like, tea or... And then I just pointed to the water. And, I said yeah, sorry. I said sign. I said teacher. So because one of them had been a teacher of sign language. So I used the sign for teaching. And even if they would have understood me without it, right, it made the communication just that bit friendlier and more barrier-free, at least for a minute. And
and I think they also feel included,
Exactly, you're showing willing, you're trying. you're using a common form of communication as opposed to a form of communication that they're forced to use because no one knows their form of communication. It's like when you travel to a foreign country, just being able to say hello in that language can help people feel so much more at ease and understood, like you're making that small effort at least. So I would definitely love to learn more. And I hope that, when my child or children are old enough, whether or not they hear, they will learn some sign language, some basics.
Your new baby.
Yeah.
Baby, are you hearing that?
Yeah. And if you're not hearing, it's okay. You'll learn sign language. It is a life skill. It's not a gimmick. And it is easier than you might think, honestly. It's way easier, I would say, than learning the basics of any other languages that I know of.
Clearly easier than Greek, for sure.
Definitely easier than Greek. But even easier than like Spanish or French
Spanish
or German. Honestly, we just sat down for a short session together over a cup of tea, and I can remember off the top of my head half of what we covered, which I can't say would be the same for any other language. So,
but I wonder if okay, I'm definitely thinking reading lips is way harder.
Reading, well, I guess it depends. Like I said, it's hard to know what it would be like if I were deaf. It might be a very different experience, right?
Yeah.
Because learning sign language, then I'm not. There's also the question of how well do you understand the English words? Like you need to know English first, right? If you just know Swahili, how do you learn Kenyan Sign Language, which is English?
Yeah.
Based on English,
Oh,
right?
God, yes.
And then there's obviously the grammar, which I didn't go into. There's other layers. I am only talking about, well, I don't know. I don't know.
But there must be
that
rules
far.
of sorts.
Yeah, to situate it. Are you talking about the present, the future, the past? Who are you talking about? Is that the baby or are you the baby? So there's definitely more layers to it. But like we said, for this season, what can you do in a day, in a short period of time on one day?
Yeah.
But definitely, look up a YouTube video. Even if you're not in Kenya, if it's Australian Sign Language, French Sign Language, American Sign Language, just look up a few words, learn a few basics so that the next time that you have an opportunity to use it, I really encourage you to do so. And so, Kumu, even if you didn't make it, just the few signs I've used during this episode, I hope you'll remember them.
I will remember
Maybe
them.
use them in the future.
There's one you showed me, I'll never forget. Guess which one? The one in France where they do the black person, like a flat
the sign
nose.
for black person, which is on the nose. I know. Yeah.
That was funny. Well, thank you, Claire, for carrying this episode and this challenge, and also for including me in your learnings. Even if I wasn't there in person, I will go to Pallet Cafe and report to you very soon. And in the meantime, for all of you listening who might be in Nairobi, don't worry, the fun doesn't end there. There are old episodes you can go back to and discover, so scroll up and down and see what tickles your fancy. There's a couple of years worth of content to catch up on.
And we'll be back in no time with a new episode where we say yes to another challenge based on your suggestions.
And in the meantime, let's interact on socials about what you've said yes to, or about your thoughts on this episode or any other episode that struck a chord with you. Whose shoes would you want to step into for a day? What are you dying to say yes to? Maybe the community can give you the push you need to say yes.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, even Threads or X as it's now known, at Yes Girls Podcast.
And you should definitely follow Pallet Cafe and visit them. They're on Instagram. That's Pallet Cafe LL, cafe_KE. Go check out their menu additions and any sign language events that they have coming up.
We want to say a big thank you. Hold your palm to your chin, facing your chin, and bring it forward towards the front. Akumu? Yeah, thank you to Sampisha Productions and Snowball Studios for, as always, producing this episode so wonderfully. You're our friend that's hugging yourself with your palms open. Ped O'Brien, who composed our theme music, and Cags, who we say yes. So knock on an invisible door at about head height, Akumu.
Knock.
Cags want to say yes to you for designing our eternally loved logo. And we love, that's hugging yourself with your palms clenched in loose fists. Because
Very close to the friend one.
Yeah, so friend, open palms. Love is,
Closed
or
palms.
boyfriend is closed palms, yeah. Because sometimes love is so passionate.
You want to hold on to them.
You want to punch them. You want to hold them, but also punch them.
Okay, we said you were on the other side of it, punching. Me, I was like, hold on.
So we love all the team at Pallet Cafe, including Susan and, of course, Edwin, for giving us your time and showing us some of this beautiful language and space. We truly appreciate it. Akumu's, I think she's signing thank you.
I think, right? Is
Yes.
it? I'm not doing it right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I'm doing it right.
And last but not least, a big hands wide. Thank you, chin, hands out, to you, yes, girls and boys and everything in between for following us on this journey of eternal discovery and learning.
Now, Akumu, we don't have an external expert to ask this question to today in the studio, but so I'll ask you instead. What is something that you've recently said yes to, not for the podcast? And given that you kind of missed this challenge, it seems apt that you tell us about another challenge you've taken on. So I don't need to answer this question. It's just on you today.
I think I said yes to starting to watch Silicon Valley. It's really good.
Okay.
I think that's the easiest thing I could think of this week. I started this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really a challenge, but okay.
It's a challenge.
Because
I get
pleasure.
to. It's so hard to laugh. It's so interesting. It's hard to just enjoy something so much.
Just to sit and watch something is so difficult. Good luck with it. I admire you. Well, that's it for this particular episode. Be sure to check out our behind the scenes photos and videos on our social media. I think I have seen Akumu posting recently about Silicon Valley on her social media. So that makes sense now. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for another fun, unique, and definitely edutaining, educational and entertaining episode. We'll keep saying yes, and we hope you will too, because I'm Claire.
And I am Akumu.
And we are
the Yes Girls.
So
Why
that's
did you pause?
a knock, a head height.
Knock.
Yes.
I
And then
love
the
that
sign
yes
for
is a
girl.
knock, like you're knocking on opportunity's door.
Yeah. And then the sign for girl is like holding a fist with a thumb out at boob level, like you're kind of milking yourself.
Very.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wait, yeah is the knock and then the boobs.